Hey friends, it is Jamie and Dr. Bob here as promised. I think we're pretty close to our noon schedule, and I want to get straight to, you guys all know what's going to happen today, so I want to get right to it. We have a lot to cover, and there is a chance that this could take a good hour, so sit in, get comfortable, and we will learn a lot from Dr. Bob today. So today our topic is food allergy testing. You guys were really kind to give us lots of your questions ahead of time. Hi to Julie. You guys were great giving us questions yesterday so that we can get right into the questions, but feel free to interact and chime in the comments while we're going, and I will try to keep up with you guys as much as I can. I know that this will be a very popular subject today. Hi to Brittany. So first of all, I wanted to let Dr. Bob know that this is our private group. So when he was on before, it was thousands of people in the public group, and this is our special cream of the crop group. So these are our very good friends who really believe in the mission of Milk Allergy Mom and really want to be a part of this positive, proactive community. And so that's who we're talking to today. And really cool thing I haven't told you about yet, but I got an email yesterday from one of our members in Australia. Okay. Saying, can you tell me the time exactly for the interview, because I don't want to miss it. I'm in Australia. I have no idea what time it is in Australia. I didn't get a chance to look that up, but there are people all over the world, lots of Canadians in the group who are interested in learning more about food allergies from an awesome doctor willing to explain it to us, so we appreciate it. Australia! I hope she's on here. I hope she made it work. What time is it in Australia? Anybody know? My boys are here, they're always with us, and Miles just got his allergy shot. So, Dr. Bob, I was wanting you to just explain first the different kinds of allergy testing. We know that there's a lot that goes into each of those elements. Then I was going to share a little bit about our journey with a decade of allergy testing, and then at the end we were going to get to questions that were submitted yesterday. Sound good? So that's going to be the layout. So if you can tell us now, I'll just hand it over to you, and I'll kind of keep track of people here about the different kinds of tests, how you measure them, what they are, you know. Sure. All those things.
No problem.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, the first thing that we have for the first test that we have is basically a patient history. Okay. When you get allergies, what type of allergies, what kind of response you have, and is it rashes, is it sneezing, is it rhinitis, is it asthma, all of those different things, because then that gives us an idea of whether it may be environmental, it may be foods, it may be who knows what, okay? So that's the first thing, and that's the first component of allergy testing. Then we get to the actual test, and I know that's what you're interested in. That's what we're going to spend most time on today. There's three different basic tests that we do. One of them is a skin test, and then there's another thing called an intradermal skin test, okay?
I don't know if I know that one.
No, you haven't been exposed to that one yet. And then we also have the blood testing, and the blood testing is completely different than the other two, okay? The first two, skin testing and intradermal test, rely on the body's response with histamine, okay? So that when a person is allergic to something, that they develop IgE, okay?
I hear about that a lot.
Okay, IgE is the antibody for allergies. And the IgE will be bound to a mast cell. So like this is the cell, and this IgE is coming off of it, okay? And an allergen will come in and it'll bind to one of these IgEs, okay? If it just binds to one of them, nothing happens. But what happens is if it cross-links between two of these, or if there's several allergens together, which they do, whenever the humidity is high, the allergens combine together so that then they'll cross-link between two of these. Once that happens, then it sets off the whole reaction, and it releases histamine, it causes redness, it causes swelling, okay? That's the principle behind the test. So that what we do is on the skin, we put on the skin some fluid that has some of the allergen in it, let's say corn pollen, okay? It has corn pollen in it, we put it on the skin, and then what we do is we put a little prick thing on there to just push and open up little holes right through the skin, just barely through the skin, just so that this stuff starts to seep through a little bit. Then, if the person's allergic, what will happen is those allergens will cause this to cross-link, and we'll start seeing redness and swelling, and it'll start to itch because that's the histamine response, okay? Then depending upon how big that gets, gives us an idea of how big the response is or how allergic they are to that particular allergen. So that's what we do initially.
Miles is listening intently.
Okay.
He's wanted this described, so maybe some of the kids, the older kids, might actually find this interesting.
Oh, sure, sure. Then, if that doesn't work, then sometimes, if we have a history like you're getting here in the United States, if in the spring always you're getting allergies, okay, and you get them between March and May, well, that's typical tree season. So let's say all of the skin tests for trees were negative on your arm, but you had this real positive history. Well, then what we do is we take the same material, but we inject it under the skin. It's called an intradermal. We inject it under the skin part of this, so it is more allergen getting to the white cells that have the IgE, the mast cells, so that then we look for a response with that. And what we'll find is that a lot of times those people that have that history, sure enough, it'll show up that way where it may not show up on the skin test.
Do you do that with kids very much, or is it more
We don't
adults?
do that very often with kids just because of the trauma associated with it. But someone, when they get 8, 9 years old, yeah, we'll do it there.
Yeah, because they just really want to know. They feel miserable every
Oh yeah,
season.
and you want to know, and because if you find that they are allergic to trees, then we can go start doing the different immunotherapy type stuff for that.
That's all with food too, right?
Oh yeah, this is
Putting
food
the food
too.
in there
Food's
too.
the same way. Now, the one thing about food is we don't do intradermals with food.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, we never do intradermals with food. We just do those for environmentals.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because injecting that underneath there could cause anaphylaxis.
Yeah, that
okay,
doesn't sound good.
Yeah, we don't want to go there.
Okay. So that's skin testing.
That's skin testing. Those
And
are the
why
two
you
types
do
of
it,
skin
the
testing.
whole
Whole idea.
IgE thingy.
Yep.
Okay.
And the whole reason why we get the response. Now, that's just IgE.
Okay.
Okay, that's all we're looking for.
IgE goes with skin.
IgE, well, it goes with skin, it goes with mucous membranes. It's actually in the gut too. Okay, and that's the one usually associated with anaphylaxis.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now, and then we do have the blood test. And with the blood test, what we do is we then measure for free-floating IgE in the system. We don't measure whether it's bound to the mast cells. Okay? So a person, if they make a certain amount of IgE, it'll all be bound to the mast cells and there won't be any floating around in their bloodstream. Okay? When there's some floating around in the bloodstream, that usually means that they're producing lots of that IgE.
Oh, okay.
More than combined just to the mast cells.
Okay.
Okay? So
it shouldn't be floating around.
No.
Okay.
We don't want it floating around.
Okay, so
but if you do have it floating around, then that means the person is more likely to have an allergy to that. And if we take foods, the more there is floating around in the bloodstream, the higher that level, the more likely they are to have an anaphylactic reaction because they got a lot of this around.
Okay, so the blood is a great way to test anaphylactic
Well,
levels?
the blood, if the skin's positive and the blood's negative, the risk of anaphylaxis is less than if the blood's positive too. And if the blood's positive at a low level, then there's some anaphylaxis risk that's higher than if it's just the skin. And if it's at a really high level, it's a greater anaphylaxis risk.
So this is all really complicated.
It's extremely
I'm really
complicated.
trying to keep my brain on this because you're smart and you're going to explain to us really in detail. Are you guys all tracking here? Just let us know if this is making sense to you, if you're learning anything new, if this is clear. So IgE is being tested when you do a skin test.
Yes.
And it can give good indications of anaphylaxis.
Or it can give an indication whether somebody's allergic to something.
Allergic to something, okay.
And then when we look for the risk of anaphylaxis, that's when we do the blood test.
Okay. So in general, are most people doing a skin first, and then if it shows up, then they do the blood?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now there are some times when we can't do skin tests, we can't get them positive for people who are on medication that blocks the histamine response. That can be antihistamines, that can be all different kinds of pills for mood, various things, lots of different things.
Anxiety.
Yeah, heart medicines,
Yeah.
blood pressure medicines, all kinds of different things.
So there's so many elements that go into testing and the kind of results that you're going to get.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's so personalized. Like, so when all of us moms get on and we start comparing notes in our threads about, well, my doctor
You
did
can't
this, my
compare.
doctor did this.
It's
it
apples and
really,
oranges.
and so this comes down to finding an allergist that is good, that will work with you on this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about sometime soon about picking an allergist, one that will just explain things to you and look at all these components, because there are some out there who probably aren't taking into account all the factors that go into testing and history, and I mean, I would just assume that, right? There's
Well,
always a good and bad
Yeah.
in anything.
Different people concentrate on different aspects of it, and
Right.
within any subspecialty, there's subspecialists.
Right,
Within
right,
that, okay.
right.
And I have an interest in this because of Miles.
Right.
And our
I
family
mean, for the
history.
longest time, you talked to me about Miles's like environmental allergies.
Yes.
And I really was like in denial. Like, I wanted to focus on the food, and you wanted to focus on the big picture, and I just would not wrap my brain around the fact that it really did all tie in together. And so we're finally doing that. I finally listened to you. And so, yeah, that's what a good allergist will do, is tie all of that in. So when it comes to, well, should I skin test and do we stop there? Or do I skin test and then do we add the blood test? And a good allergist really is taking into account what is best for you.
Exactly.
They're not just going on a book checking off, well, this is what you do.
That's right. That's right. Just because, let's say a skin test, and when we read them, let's go to reading of the skin test. Okay.
That's good.
We talked about how big the response is, and the bigger the response, the more positive we call it, and we grade them with 1, 2, 3, and 4 is how they're graded, and 4 is the highest that you can get, and 4 is the same response that we do when we just have the histamine.
And we're
'Cause
doing
they'll do a
skin right
positive
now,
negative.
right?
This is skin
1, 2,
test.
3, 4 on skin.
1, 2, 3, 4 on
Okay.
skin. Okay, and that 4 is the histamine. We put histamine there. We do the same test, which is histamine, and whatever response we see in that. When we see that same response to an allergen, that's a 4 response. That's the maximum we would expect. Now, sometimes we'll actually see a greater response than that, and when we see a greater response than that, then we
Then the
have to-
histamine.
Then the histamine
Right.
by itself, we know this person's really allergic there, and there's
Right.
a lot of allergy
Right.
risk. Okay, and then when we see that, then it's like, oh wow, that's even more of a risk of anaphylaxis. So let's get blood tests to make sure that goes along with that.
Gotcha.
Now let's say that if we don't see any response at all, it looks the same as, because we also put water on there and do the same thing. Because some people have a thing called dermatographia where you just write on their arm like this with a pen and it'll show everything. Okay, it just gets red.
They respond to the pen.
They respond to the pen.
Because
They
they're that
respond to
sensitive,
anything.
right.
Yeah, it's a sensitive skin. And I've got a little bit of that because you can see the redness. Well, you can't see it, but I can see it right here. It's occurring right there. So what we'll do is we'll say that's a 0, okay? And then somewhere in between there are the gradations, okay? And it's a little bit subjective, but after you do enough of them, you see enough of them, you get pretty consistent. And what we found is that for somebody who's trained well, different people, they'll grade them pretty much the same. Right.
Dr. Siri's really good at
Oh, yeah.
measuring and
Yeah.
giving those numbers. Like, she doesn't even have to think about it.
Well, yeah, and yeah, you get to where you can look at them and you can say, okay, and then we look at the size of the flare. The flare is the redness, and the wheal is the little bump, the little blister.
I don't
okay?
know if I knew that.
Yeah,
So the wheel is the actual bump,
the bump,
and the what?
the flare.
Flare is the red.
Is the
Okay.
red, okay. And so sometimes when they're big enough, we'll measure those, okay? Because if they're this size this time, and then a year from now we've done this various therapy, we've done different things, and they're this size, oh, that may be significant, okay? It may not be because there's plenty of other factors that can make it be different from one day to another as
Right.
well.
I want to talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to share a little bit about us testing Miles and some of the things that have
Sure.
been a part of that. Now, this is a really good question. So we talked about skin and blood. Skin testing IgE. What are blood numbers? How do we read those?
Well, blood.
But this isn't. Then I have a question too.
Blood comes out is we measure the number of nanoliters nanograms per milliliter of the IgE.
What are they telling us when they give us the numbers as the mom?
That it's telling you how much free IgE for that particular antigen is in the blood.
And what do the numbers look like? Because we haven't done this for a while.
Well, typically.
Oh, isn't it like the point something?
Yeah, a negative number
decimals
is usually a point something. It depends on your laboratory. Some labs it's 0.1, some labs it's 0.35, some labs it can be any variance.
So
whatever.
when us moms are comparing notes,
it doesn't.
The labs may be different.
Exactly.
Oh gosh. Okay. This is why I haven't put a lot of stock in moms comparing our numbers. I used to as a new allergy mom. That I hung on to that like for dear life, thinking that I could figure this whole allergy thing out. But
No, you can't.
I didn't even realize labs vary.
Oh yeah, it varies.
Okay.
But in general,
Blood is when you get classes.
You get classes.
Okay.
And bloods.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And that can go from a class what to a class what?
A class 1 through a class 5.
A 5, and skin is 0
1
to
through 4.
4. Okay. Okay.
0 to 4 and 1 through 5.
I think Miles is
0 through 5.
Miles has fluctuated between a class 2 and 3 with his milk. I think he's a 3 right now.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. We're going to talk about that. Okay, so this was a good question. Now, can you talk about testing environmentals and food? Should it be done at the same time?
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that depends on how much skin you got. Okay.
So if you have a baby, you should do it separate.
If a baby, you can only get so many tests on. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then when you have.
Because babies are doing their backs mostly.
Yeah. Well, we do backs on most everybody.
Okay.
And the reason we choose backs is the nerves in the back are further apart. Okay, so that you don't feel it as bad on the back as you would here on this, because the nerves are close together. If you did it on your fingers, I mean, you feel it really, really a lot.
You're bobbing your feet, that'd be bad.
Exactly, right. It's where, and so we do it on the back because all the nerves are further apart, and plus we got a big expanse that we can do this on. Okay? So we can do a lot of different tests.
Okay, so if it's an older child, I mean, you could do environmental and food at the same time.
Oh yeah,
if there's room for it.
Yeah, there is, and sometimes. Even on a younger child, we'll want that information, so we'll do some of them on the back, we'll do some on their thighs, we'll do various places. It depends on how bad you need the information right now to come up with a picture that you need.
Right. I mean, when Miles had his anaphylactic reaction at 8 months, we couldn't get answers fast enough to know why that happened.
Right.
I don't even know if we did environmentals at that time, though.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. Here's a question that let's see. I have an almost 2-year-old and was going to ask if it hurt as well. About the skin testing, if it hurts.
Oh, well, you feel the little pricks. Now, when you have a little one, lots of times instead of doing the individuals, we do them in
a panel, right?
And it has 8 of them on the panel. And it's 8 little sticky things. They're not really needles, but they kind of look like needles, but they just do 8 of them at once, and you can do them, boom, like that, and there's 8 of them done. And so
you don't have to do it one time to the child instead of
that's right.
8
They're
times.
doing 8 times, and you can't hold the child still, and
Right.
then they get spread all over the place and everything else. This puts all of them in relationship to each other, so we can read them later.
Hey, Miles, do you think? Come here a second. You remember getting skin testing on your back? Have you ever had a time where it was so bad and it hurt so bad, or was it usually like,
It's just itchy a lot.
It just gets itchy. Right, so moms and dads have to be prepared. Thanks, buddy. He's not been traumatized by it, obviously, but we have to be prepared for the kids to be irritated.
Oh yeah, and they're going to be scared of it. I mean,
because you're in the doctor's office.
Exactly,
right.
And they're getting something on there, and you'll feel it. I mean, but it doesn't really hurt. It feels kind of like a mosquito bite.
Right.
I mean, it's enough to where you feel it, but it's...
So moms can maybe prepare their children, it totally depends on the age, but a toddler, that it's not really going to...
It's not, it's only going to be just an instant that you'll feel something, and then it's gone.
Right, right. Okay.
And we have some 4-year-olds that just sit there and don't do anything.
Right, right. Miles was always
and others
pretty good.
go off the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's all individual to the kids, right?
Right.
Yeah. And moms do a good job of doing the best that they can without letting them smear it. I mean, we had to have videos and DVDs, and when we were doing Miles, it was back in the put a VHS in the TV at the office. We didn't have iPads and all that jazz, so that was cool. So you can
So
do
let's get-
environmentals and food at the same time.
Right.
There's nothing that's going to throw anything off doing something like
No,
that.
no.
Okay, what if you do both and it's like major pollen season? Then is their milk going to get like, nah, is that
Not
too complicated?
Usually.
Okay,
Not usually.
okay.
Not usually. We
That's
can get
good.
into more of that stuff later on if we need to, but
And then you only
not
have to
usually.
pay for one appointment.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you only have to drag, I mean, if it is a child that's timid and scared, then you only have to do it once.
Well, and also if they're on antihistamines for their rhinitis
Right.
and stuff, you only have
You
to
have
go
to
off
take it off of
once.
it once.
Exactly
Okay,
right.
so that's good to know that you can do the good question. Thank you, whoever gave us that one. All right, so.
Let's go to blood for a little bit more.
Okay, blood for a little
Looking
bit
at the
more, okay.
classes, okay? So we measure the classes, okay? And a lot of people get hung up saying that, okay, my kid this time, the level was 4, okay? And now next time, the level's 9, okay? Well, to us as allergists, that doesn't mean a whole lot.
Well, you said level 9, but that's not class,
No,
right?
yeah, no.
Levels
the
are
number,
within the
number is
classes?
9.
Okay.
No, the number is 9. So the number of IgE that they have per milliliter was 4 this time, and now it's 9.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the class may change from class 2 to class 3. Let's say it does. As allergists, that doesn't mean a whole lot to us.
Uh-huh.
That changed because that can vary from 1 month to another to another to another. That's all in the same realm. Now, if it changes from 4 to 104, now that's a difference. Okay, so yeah, you
You
don't.
have told me that any given day, the floaty
Oh yeah, it
stuff
can
changes.
be up and down. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. It'll be in the same range, but it'll. Okay.
Right, so some of us are really holding on to and comparing numbers that really are minuscule in the big
Exactly.
picture. Okay.
Now there is one other thing that can occur, and that is if the total IgE. So, because when we do a blood test, we measure the specific IgE to the different allergens, and then we measure the total amount of IgE too.
Okay.
Now, total IgE should be in 100 or less, okay? But a lot of times when people have allergies to environmentals, they may have a total IgE of 200, 500, I've even seen it 1,000,
Ah,
okay?
are you doing food too? Or
Well,
no, this is
that's
just environmentals?
total, this is total floating around IgE. It's
Okay.
not specific to anything, it's the
Okay.
whole amount of
Okay.
IgE floating in the blood,
Okay,
okay?
so one number for total IgE.
For total
Okay.
IgE. Okay, and if that's really high, then when we start doing the individual tests, sometimes those tests will turn out positive just because there's so much IgE around, and it's not. It's a technicality of the test, and so it turns out to be a false positive for that particular allergen.
Which is
We
why
see
skin
that.
will help double check that.
Sometimes.
So what did you say? You see this often?
Oh yeah, we see it often. When the total IgE is high, we'll find a whole bunch of them that'll be mildly positive to individual allergens, and they're really not allergic to
Is
them
this the
at all.
same blood test? When we go get a blood test, you're going to get the total and the individuals
Yes.
all at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we can't always interpret the individuals unless we know the total. If the total is not super high, then the individuals, if they're positive, they probably are allergic. There's an allergic response. for them.
Oh, so
Okay?
an exaggerated number kind of throws it all off.
Throws it
but
all
a
off.
number that looks within that 100 total
That's
means that the individuals are probably more
Probably,
accurate.
probably.
Okay.
Okay.
Did not know that.
Okay. Now let's relate all of this to the clinical situation.
Okay.
Okay.
Because these are all things doctors are seeing and thinking.
Oh, yeah,
are they
all the
telling
time.
us moms this? Are they
Not
saying your
always.
total IgE was really wonky, so
Well, yeah. If you have a bunch of false positives, that's what we'll say.
you'll say it looks like it'll probably be false positives.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's really high, we'll think that.
Because you're just telling us in mom language that we'll understand.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to talk about all that crazy stuff, but you're just going to say, I'm thinking it's probably false positives.
Yes.
And then we're thinking, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Because there's
said that-
this many patients to be seen during the day, and I have this much time.
Right. Okay,
Okay.
so you said clinical. You're going to
Yeah,
clinical
now we're
on
going to
this?
the clinical relationship, okay? Just because somebody has a positive skin test
Mm-hmm.
to a food, does that mean that when they eat it, they're going to have an allergic reaction? And the answer is no. It doesn't always hold true. Some people can have positive tests right here, They can eat the stuff, no problem whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
Because there is another antibody that's made, and that's an IgG antibody, and it's in the IgG3 realm of antibodies. There's four different types of IgG antibodies, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And so this is actually a protective antibody that's specific for that specific antigen. So let's take corn again. Have a positive skin test to corn, let's say it's a 4, okay? Which is high.
Yeah.
Okay? But this person's been eating corn all their life, doesn't have any problem with it whatsoever. Okay? That means that they probably have a high IgG level specific for corn that makes them tolerant.
That's protecting
them. And sometimes that'll make their skin test go down, and sometimes it won't.
Okay. Well, some people, like for me, I would wonder, well, if I'm allergic to it, but I'm still eating it, am I messing up something inside that I shouldn't be eating it? Is that another topic for another day?
That's another topic, because that's a yes and no.
Okay. That's more that you need to know their history, their symptoms, all that stuff.
We have a lot of people coming in that say, you know, I've been eating this all my life and everything else. They bring in their kids, they've been eating all their life, they've been doing this, but they always have loose stools, or they always complain about a stomach ache, whatever.
Right.
We do the skin testing, we remove those things. Gosh, they don't complain about stomach ache anymore. I just had a patient with this, okay? Had like 7 different foods we had to stop. Stopped all 7 of them, it all went away. We did some blood testing, did some other things, and showed that they were positive to 5 out of the 7. Okay, so these other 2 that they weren't positive in the blood, we reintroduced those, and they were fine. We reintroduced egg, it was fine. We went to reintroduce peanut, took just a little bit of peanut, started getting the stomach ache, okay, and noticed a little blotch on their cheek, and the mom goes, "Oh my gosh, their cheek used to be red all the time." I'd forgotten that.
Wow. So no peanut.
No peanuts.
No peanut.
Okay. Now, we haven't got to the other 3 yet to try, but we know that probably peanut is the culprit, or at least one of the culprits.
And sometimes it's a long road. You have to really be strategic about cutting and adding and one at a time and all that stuff.
This took 9 months.
Wow. And now he knows, but
now
it was worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Did you cover everything with blood and clinical that you wanted
I think
to
we've covered about everything.
Okay. So I just wanted to explain really quickly, I mean, as a food allergy mom, when Miles was diagnosed and we had him tested at 8 months, I mean, I'm like very thinky person, fact kind of person, and when I got his numbers, I started Milk Allergy Mom as like a diary blog, and I would literally record his numbers on the blog every year that we would get tested, and I would compare them, and oh my gosh, it went down a tiny bit, and I probably drove you crazy talking to you about it, and yeah, I know, I'm serious, and literally he's still like in that range that he's always been
Exactly,
in.
right, it hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed, but for me, like a little number changed, like with the blood, when it changed from teeny tiny, my thing in saying this is I don't even know what his results are anymore, because I hit this point in our journey here where I realized he's allergic to milk, and like you're saying, you can't predict by these numbers. I mean, if he's going to outgrow it, or if it's a little bit better, if he can, the whole real test is them eating it, right? Right. So what happened what helped me get over that hump of paying attention and comparing numbers with all my friends all the time was I drank out of his water. I had eaten string cheese. We went to a park. I was talking to moms, getting distracted, drank out of his water bottle, went home, and he drank out of the water bottle after I had drank out of it string cheese, and his mouth started to feel funny. And I knew immediately what had happened. And we ended up skipping testing that year because we called Dr. Siri and we said he drank out of the water bottle. We didn't end up needing an EpiPen. It was just the one symptom in his mouth, and we probably called you and you had us give him the Benadryl, and he was fine. But, that was our test.
Exactly.
We didn't need a blood test. We didn't need a skin test. We were like, okay, he got residue in his mouth.
You did an oral food challenge.
On accident.
Which
you would never do on purpose.
Exactly.
But when you have the things that happen in real life that give you an indication, you just check in with your allergist and say, well, this is what happened. Can you note it in our charts?
Yep.
And we saved a couple $100 that
Exactly.
year. So, and that was really the point. I think he was 7 when I just realized the testing, and so like and we do the testing. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
But there is a place for that.
Yeah, very much so.
But it really is when they eat it. So recently, you know that he ate the chocolate chip cookies that were contaminated chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Had a funny mouth. Then they actually had a recall because it was iffy. Like, is this a nut or a milk? Because he's anaphylactic to both. Day later, the recall came out. They were contaminated with milk. And guess what? He was one of like a dozen that I know of people that had the reaction. So now we know. This was before we started desensitizing with pollen and stuff, though. So we're going to talk about how all that ties in together. So anyway, just to give you that encouragement that, you know, getting your numbers, working with your allergist, doing those things are good, but don't hang your hat on the numbers on testing with skin or blood, because they really don't say a whole lot. Like, what is the point in testing then? We're going to get into some of the questions that our awesome members left for us. Is going to cover a lot of that, but I mean,
Well,
why do we test then?
Okay, because there is a close association.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that when we do the test, if they turn out positive, there's like a 97% chance that person has some allergy to that. Okay, now the amount of allergy can vary depending upon how severe the tests are, and again, it's looking at what is the risk, what are the risk factors here, how severe is this, where do we want to go? Do we want to try something, a food challenge at home, or do we want to try it here in the office? That depends upon what their different blood levels are and what their responses are and whether they've eaten it before or not, whether they had reaction or not, and all of those things come into play. So
testing is important on an individual level,
that's right.
but testing is not indicative of anything comparing notes with other people.
Exactly. No.
Because it's so individualized.
It's very individualized and has to be individualized for that particular patient. And that's why I started out with food testing is the history. Because history plays an important part on what you're going to do and how you're going to interpret all these.
Right, exactly.
Because if they have a negative skin test to something, but yet every time they drink milk they have an anaphylactic reaction, duh.
Yeah, I mean, duh.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk more in another session about food challenges and baked in milk and all those levels. You wanted to just cover, because we knew it would take our time, to start with the basics, the history, the blood, and the skin.
Yeah, history, skin, and blood.
History, skin, and blood is the order that you would go. History, skin, blood. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Unless you can't get skin for some reason, then you go history, blood.
Okay. Okay, good to know. But you never do history, blood, skin?
Not usually.
Not usually? Okay, good to know. Good to know. Now let's get to some of the questions because they're good ones here. How are we doing? We're doing good on time. So can blood and skin contradict? You've talked about that a little bit.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. If you have a negative blood test, does that mean it's not anaphylactic?
No. Doesn't mean they can still have anaphylaxis.
Okay. And if they have negative skin and blood,
then the likelihood of anaphylaxis is pretty low.
Okay. I think we have somebody that has that, so it can happen?
It still can happen.
Okay.
Because I said that before. If they have anaphylaxis whenever they eat it and their skin's negative, doesn't matter.
Right. You have the allergy.
Yep.
Right. Okay. How reliable are skin and blood tests?
Well, they're fairly consistent from one day to another within the realm of the thing. Like if somebody's a class 4, they won't go from a class 4 to a class 0 in one day, or a class 1. They'll be a class 4. They may, if it's a low class 4, they may be a class 3 the next day, that kind of thing.
Okay.
A level 3, for a skin test. And it's the same way with blood tests. If it's a class 3 today, it may be a class 4 tomorrow, maybe a class 2, but it'll be in that same realm.
But they can contradict each other.
Oh yeah. One can be high and one can be low, and vice versa.
Miles has had that, where
Yes.
on his skin it didn't show up hardly, and then we go do the blood, and he's like a high-end class 3 and whatever in blood. So that can happen.
But his total IgE was elevated too, so it may not be that bad in his blood as it
Oh, okay.
was.
Has he had the
Oh, yeah.
somebody left a comment, and I That was a good one. Thank you for taking time for us. Yay, good. I'm glad. I know. He's awesome because, I mean, we're a little group and we appreciate you doing this for us.
My pleasure.
Big bonus for the private group. Somebody just said they had a total 300
Yeah.
IgE. I don't remember what the question was, but Miles has had that before too, like
Oh,
really
yeah.
high?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that meant some of it was maybe not accurate?
Well, or that his reaction to that specific allergen was magnified.
Okay.
More than what it really is.
Okay, and we have done oral challenges and oral challenge of milk with Miles, and we've done a baked in thing with Miles, so we have a lot to share on those regards too when we talk about the challenges next time. Let's see. How do you understand results? You kind of went over that. I mean, basically like the terminology and everything.
Oh,
so
yeah.
the skin was it's measuring IgE,
Yes.
and it's a 1 to a 4.
It's measuring the histamine
0.
response with IgE, okay? Where the blood is measuring the IgE itself.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, it's the histamine response.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they can be trying to have a response there, but if they're not responding, the histamine isn't doing its thing because they have antihistamines in their body.
So
You won't see
skin
anything.
is response to IgE.
Yes, the histamine response.
Blood
to IgE,
is counting the actual IgE.
that's free floating.
Okay.
But it's not counting the ones that
That
are
are
attached to the mast cells.
Okay. Okay. So how do you understand those in like mom terms? So a 0 on a skin test is a low allergy. It looks to be low allergy.
Yeah, it looks like probably not allergy.
And then a 4 is the biggest on a skin test, and that's a pretty high allergy. Sometimes Dr. Siri does a 4+.
Yeah, well, we'll do a 4+ when we see it's bigger than what the histamine reaction was.
Oh, bigger than the, okay. And then on on blood, there's levels
Classes.
first.
Yeah, well, it's the actual level of the measuring of the IgE, how much IgE is to that particular antigen, or the total amount.
And then they'll put that into a
Then
class.
they'll put it in a class.
Okay.
We don't put the total IgE into a class. at all.
Okay.
We
The
don't.
total, that big picture number.
Yeah,
Right.
it's all the floating
It's not
IgE.
into a class.
It's not
Okay.
into a
It's
class.
just kind of an indicator to be able to analyze the other.
It helps us be able to analyze the other.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. I'm learning a lot. I hope that you guys are too, because like really when I decided to throw out what I cared about the testing, I quit trying to learn all the information and forgot a lot too. How often should we test?
Well, it depends. Of course.
His job is so easy. He just says it depends all the time. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on all the situation of what's all going on, okay? Lots of times we won't test more than once a year, okay? But with Miles, we tested back this spring, right? Wasn't it this spring when we
I
tested?
don't remember.
When was last?
Usually he's on a once a year track.
Well, we
or
tested
we
it
skip.
before we started doing all those environmentals.
Yeah.
Okay,
that
whenever
was
we started that.
bad.
Okay, and
That's when he had a fever.
That's when he had a really bad response. He had a near infection at the time we didn't recognize it. He had this stuff, and so yeah, he had more of a response. Okay, but now once we get to where and he's real close to where he's on his maintenance dose, then we'll test
Maintenance
again
dose for
for
environmentals.
For environmentals. Then we'll retest again, looking at his total IgE and his specific IgEs to milks and to peanuts, the various nuts. Okay, not peanuts, the various nuts. And we'll see what those are. And then that'll help guide us when we start doing the food challenge for him, which will be a baked-in food challenge of what to do. So with him, yeah, we're going to measure it more frequently because we want to find out what.
Because we're being real proactive right now.
Yeah, because
So we
it's
want to
gonna-
have a real good
It's going to
idea.
direct what we do.
Okay. Okay, so if you have like a baby who had anaphylaxis and you did what I did, went and got your results, found out what they're allergic to, we did like once a year to just check in because that's a real fluid time where they
That's
can
right.
outgrow.
That's right.
It can get worse. Like I feel like there was a lot of shaking up going. Every year we would go and it would be something new we would discover. So
Right.
that's a good time to be doing. Do people do 6 months sometimes at that young age?
Well, rarely do we do 6 months unless unless something really changes.
Okay.
Okay.
Or if they have a reaction that they
didn't
see
have
something
before.
new, they want to
Exactly.
come in.
Right.
That's acceptable too.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It depends. You know, if they weren't having problems before and now they're starting having all kinds of stomach aches with something.
Or eczema comes on.
Or something, yes, exactly.
Eczema's big with our group.
Right.
So, okay. So about once a year, and then, so we have some moms who are like our age, and they just kind of, they don't want to have to hear that they're still allergic every year. So they're like 9,
That's okay.
10, 11, and they're like, we just go every 3 years or something now,
Yeah.
because this is our lifestyle. We've just kind of settled in. Our kids
Yep.
healthy, happy, functioning well. That's good to just,
Sure, that's fine.
if you're fine with avoiding
Yep.
the foods and not wanting to be super gung-ho about making any changes.
Yep.
Okay, all
That's
right. All right, that sounds good. How often should we test? When does Bake Challenge and all that come in? We're going to talk about that another day. Just real quick, though, we have done a baked or a challenge when Miles's numbers are high. That's not, like, ruled out. When numbers are high, you can still take it a step further to make sure it's...
Well, we actually have a protocol with that, depending upon what their numbers are, whether they've had anaphylaxis or not, various other type of things. Then we decide whether to do a baked-in food challenge or whether to go straight to a whole milk food challenge.
Right, okay. So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
There's a whole big thing.
And there's not a tried and true system. It's to the person.
No.
To the person and their history.
And that can vary with one physician to another exactly how they're going to write that protocol, because there's no gold standard on this at this point.
Right. You want a good doctor who communicates, has a relationship with you, looks at their whole picture and their history. But even within that, doctors are going to vary on how they do things.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So when we compare notes as moms to say, well, my doctor won't do a food challenge, and well, mine's really high, and he wants to do a food, like, that's all just part of individuality between doctors.
That is correct.
There's no right or wrong reason. Okay, that's good to know. Again, this is why this is so fascinating. It's just the kids vary, the doctors vary, and there's just so much.
The science varies.
Yeah, the science varies. That's why I love this group, so we can just get it out there and talk about it. Like, it's fun to talk about, but we're never going to, like, nail down.
Well, we may.
We may.
We're getting closer.
Okay.
We're getting closer. The science is getting better.
Okay. All right. Well, I would love to nail down. I'm like a black and white kind of girl.
Yeah.
Like, the gray life is not my jive. So, all right. That's encouraging. Thank you. Let's see. Does testing flare your body up? Like, so if we take our child in and we get a skin test, then did we just make their milk allergy worse because we poked them with milk?
No, not typically.
Okay.
There's not enough milk gets into the system, or not enough allergen gets into the system to really affect the system. Okay. Because, and that's why with skin testing you don't see anaphylaxis typically.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I've never ever seen that. I mean, it's been reported, but it's rare.
It's rare.
Because you're not introducing that much antigen.
Okay. I want to ask a quick question. So I ignored you about environmentals for a long time. But is it a good idea to just throw those in and be doing that when you start on this food allergy journey, to just get an idea of what the environmentals are too?
Well, it depends. If in the history there's some suggestion of that, with either, depends. There's a lot of different suggestions that can be in history. If there's a suggestion that there's environmentals, yeah, then we ought to do environmentals.
Okay.
Sometimes when I have a new patient comes in, especially if they come from a long ways away and that I'm not sure what their immune status is, I will do all of the environmentals, mix, let's say all the environmentals, and then I'll do the most common foods just to get an idea of what their immune status is. And it's amazing how many will have some of both.
Right.
Okay.
Just to get a baseline of where they're at.
Right. But again, that's because we're subspecialists and these patients were hard to figure out.
Right.
Wherever they were.
Right. And some of us moms would think you just wanted to charge us more, so
No,
you
no,
tested
no.
for more stuff.
No,
Am I right, you guys?
Well,
But you just want to be a good doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
And
right.
you want
we
to
want
know
find
the whole
answers
picture,
and what we can do best for the patient.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know me, I'm cheap.
Well, I know, I was teasing, but I'm saying I know that some of us moms would think that. Like,
Yeah.
my kid only had a reaction to milk. Why are we testing trees? You know? So, yeah.
There's
So
good reason.
it's good to know. There's always, it seems like there is a good reason with the doctors. We just don't know it sometimes as
Yeah,
moms.
and sometimes, I mean, I had this trouble when I was younger, that sometimes, you know, you got to be kind of smart to do this, okay? And sometimes when people are smart, that we're not so good socially, okay? And so that it took me a long time to help learn how to mold those two.
I'm helping you with Facebook Live.
Yes, you are.
Learn how to be a people person.
Yes, you are.
Yay! I always liked you. I had to. I wanted to marry your
You
son.
better, yes.
All right. So we've had a few questions about siblings, which I think is really good. We have a sibling, and we also went through all of this, and I think they can be quick answers. So when Miles had anaphylaxis at 8 months, we had another baby 22 months later. I was like crazy mom brain. Like, I was really scared to introduce foods to Graham at 6 months, and Dr. Siri was willing to test him for me. And I can get into all of the details of that. I mean, there were things we avoided that ended up he could eat, and there's things that, whatever. What is your suggestion? These moms are just wanting to know, when you have a sibling, come on, we're all freaked out, and we're all scared, especially if anaphylaxis happened with the baby before. What would be your best advice for us getting an idea of what to do with the next baby?
Treat them as if they were normal.
Okay.
Didn't have any allergies at all, because even though allergies tend to run in families, that doesn't necessarily mean food allergies run in families, okay? Just because somebody's allergic to milk in this family, is the next child going to be allergic to milk? Most likely no.
Yeah, Graham never was allergic to milk.
Most likely no, okay? And so you just introduce the foods, because that's the best way to do it, and to introduce them at the appropriate times with whatever your pediatrician is saying.
Right.
And that varies from 1 year to another. I mean, I'm old enough to have seen to where everybody was to get peanuts while they were pregnant, and then it was nobody to get it while they're pregnant, and then not the kids not to get it. And now it's back to, yeah, kids are supposed to eat it. And now it's even back to, well, moms are supposed to eat it. So the science is progressing, and we don't have any definite answers, but we're learning lots of times there are associations, but they're not causations.
Okay. If somebody would have told me, maybe you did and I wasn't listening, or I was really tired, but if somebody would have told me to just do Graham normal, I probably would have. If a doctor I trusted would have told me that, we would have done that. But I think Dr. Siri's really nice, and she'll do things that, like, some people talk about requesting tests and stuff from their doctor, and the doctor says no. And then, well, I asked Dr. Siri to do Graham at 6 months. What is kind of how you guys work around here? Do you just do whatever people want, or do you try to coach them through what's best?
Graham wasn't completely normal.
Well, that's true. That's true.
See, he wasn't completely normal when he was
That's
that
true.
age.
He wasn't.
No.
He had that huge mystery breakout. He
Exactly.
had like leprosy on vacation. His skin was so.
Yep. He was
You're
having
right.
all
He
kinds of
wasn't
skin
normal.
issues. So he wasn't normal.
So if a baby's having some kind of symptoms,
That's a different story.
Okay.
Different story.
Well, I'm glad you said that. That clears that up. Okay, so if the baby is having some kind of symptoms, skin,
funny feeding, whatever,
diapers,
restless,
not good,
whatever,
restless. Miles was like never happy.
Oh yeah, he was
never happy. Yeah. So, not happy till 8 months old.
Exactly.
Then he turned into a different kid.
Yep.
Then he liked you.
Yep.
He only liked me till he was 8 months old. That's awesome. I'm glad you said that. And so going along with siblings, if they do test early, false positives, that's what some moms are scared of. Getting a false positive, avoiding the food when they really shouldn't have.
They shouldn't.
I mean, you're taking that risk.
That's right.
So you have to talk to your doctor to make sure this is a risk worth taking, doing this test based on the symptoms that you're having.
Right.
Okay. So it's very individualized.
Very much so.
All right. So nobody get on the group and say, I didn't have my siblings tested, so none of you guys should. Because us moms should not do that.
No.
Right. That's why we're doing this group. So we can be just encourage each other on very individual levels. Same diet. Okay, so if you have a sibling who seems to be free and clear of allergies, but you're trying to have an allergy-safe home, should you have your sibling on the same diet as the allergy sibling? The question is, like, so if I didn't give Graham milk ever, then would he have developed a milk allergy because we made his diet the same?
Probably not.
Probably not. What?
Yeah, okay.
I already forgot my question.
Okay. Would he develop a milk allergy? Okay?
If he avoided
If he avoided milk.
Oh, okay.
The answer is probably not.
Oh, okay.
Okay, probably not.
Because his body's just wired
it's
already.
Totally different. Yes, it's totally different. Okay, because people that are going to develop allergies are going to develop allergies. People that aren't going to develop allergies aren't going to develop allergies. In general, that's true. Can people switch over? Yeah, they can. But we don't yet know what makes people switch over. Okay.
Right.
We know I can go into all kinds of details about interleukins and the different interleukins 1, 3, 5, 17, 13, and how their effects on why it switches from T helper cells to T2 cells and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, you've said that stuff to me, and I look like I do right now.
But the thing is, we don't know the answers yet. Okay? We know some things that are going on. And as I explain it to some people, it's like, you know, this table, right, that we have here. Let's say we have a table here, and this tabletop is our information that we know. Okay? But we now realize that this room is what we don't know. Okay? Now, sometimes, though, we can put somebody over in that corner of the room or that corner of the room and say, we know you're in that corner. We don't know why you're in that corner. Well, we know some things that happen to put you in that corner, and we know some things we can do to get you out of that corner and get you over here. But we don't know why.
Right.
And that's kind of where we are.
Pieces that still need to be put together.
Exactly.
And you're excited to be working in this because
I love this.
You're seeing it all like unfold.
Oh, yeah.
Slowly.
Yeah.
But hopefully surely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's fascinating.
Yay. Well, we're glad to give you a place to be all excited with us. Okay. So that is my sibling questions. Is there a question on there?
Having trouble with the video.
Oh no, hopefully you'll keep it posted.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
we will. Yes, we will. In the group, they will stay, you guys. I might even find extra places to put them for you guys. Somebody wanted to know, so about environmentals and all that stuff. I thought this was really fascinating. So specific question, they have a dog, their child's allergic to the dog, but they're also allergic to foods. Is having the dog in the house affecting the food allergy? And I'm kind of like, we don't have a dog or pets, but I'm thinking that transfers into like our environmental tree and pollen with Miles, where we really do want to get him not so sensitive to that so that he can fight the food better and start desensitizing to that. So is that the same situation with a dog or a cat?
Kind of, yeah, pretty much. Because
your body just has like a total fighting, like if you look at the whole
exactly.
fight picture.
It's the fighting issue, exactly. Whenever there's an allergic response to anything, it tends to make the body want to respond more to any other allergic response than it has than it would have if it wouldn't have been. So it's kind of like an upward spiral that occurs, okay? And so every time you get exposed to these allergens, it makes you go further up that spiral, so that if you start down here and you have an allergy to milk, allergic reaction to milk, you have this much response. But if you've already got this allergy to, let's say, the dog up here because of where it is, it also tends to pull up that allergy to the milk at the same time, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So that your response is going to be greater.
And taking a medicine or something like a Zyrtec to help you not react so much isn't helping that fight mechanism.
That doesn't change it a whole lot.
Right, okay.
Because we got to get back to what's stimulating this. Because, again, like the skin test is measuring the histamine reaction to the body's reaction to histamine for the IgE that's on the mast cells, okay? It's not changing anything in the mast cells. It's not measuring any of those type of things. And so when we get to treating with the system, what we're doing is we're actually treating here at the base level of why are they having a response or not having a response. And so we want to cool everything off. And so having that dog around, they're just always having to fight that. Even though they're taking antihistamines to it, it's not getting up so high. It's still popping that system up.
You want to bring everything down as much as you can. And then why? Why do we want to bring everything down?
Because then when we reintroduce the food, we can reintroduce it at a higher level so that we can get the tolerance coming up faster. Because if we don't want to have it to where this is so high that we just give a little bit and boom, we bump this too.
Right. Are we kind of talking about like the big picture of trying to desensitize the food?
Exactly. Okay. Yes, this is desensitizing type thing. And then
if that's your goal.
If that's your goal, or if you want to have them have less of a response or whenever they are exposed to it, even if it's accidental.
Right.
Then you want to try to remove as much of the environmental stuff as you can.
Okay, that's very, very helpful. All right. Last question. I'm going to save one that I have because it's more along the lines of desensitizing and stuff like that. So I'll save that question. I think this is a great grand finale.
Okay.
Great question. I have never heard this before ever, but I know that we've talked about it along those lines. I can't remember the context that she put it in, but I know siblings.
Okay.
So if Miles is allergic to milk and Graham eats a yogurt and they were little and they like kissed each other and all that stuff, they don't do that anymore, right guys? No. All right, but if Graham ate yogurt, this mom in our group heard that eating an apple is one of the best ways to clean out the mouth of the allergens. Okay. Have you ever heard that?
Well,
and is it true?
I don't know for sure about neutralizing, okay? All I can tell you is that what happens with milk, because of its consistency being fatty-like.
Because all the proteins in the allergen foods are different.
Exactly.
And so you're talking about specifically how milk is built.
Milk, okay, with this, because that was the question, okay? So that milk, whenever you drink milk or you have a milkshake, you know how it kind of coats your teeth and coats your mouth. That's because of the fatness that's in it, and then that fat stays there. So that when you eat an apple, what happens with the crunchiness of the apple is it's like using a washcloth to help clean that off.
And we know that food proteins are removed with friction.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. And so when that's what's happening, I suspect that that's what's going on.
Okay.
I don't think that.
So you can't say the blanket apple thing with all the allergens.
No,
because they're all different.
Because I don't think that we don't have any evidence that one food will change the allergenicity of another food just by eating.
What about brushing your teeth?
Well, again, it's just a mechanical removing of
So
things.
brushing your teeth with any allergen, if you had your little one brush their teeth often, like washing hands often, that would be a good...
Yeah, it's the same principle. It's just,
right.
You know, like whenever we're together with all of the grandkids and all the cousins, is that when everybody finishes eating, if Miles there, they all go wash their hands and face right away.
Right. He says wash, and I say wash.
Yeah, I'm a hillbilly.
No, I think it's regional. I bet a lot of them say wash. So siblings being around, eating foods, washing hands, brushing the teeth the best they can. I think probably the apple trick is like, oh, you're out and about, and you don't have a toothbrush kind of thing.
Yeah,
so can I just eat something to...
Yeah, right.
I mean, it won't hurt,
no.
But you can't say 100%.
It won't get rid of all of it.
Right, right. Or chewing gum. I think that's kind of like salivary. You need
that's
like that brush kind of thing. Okay. All right. Well, that was a very interesting question. So I appreciate that. If you guys have any other questions for Dr. Bob, leave them in the comments here because we're just keeping a running notebook of all the different topics. We have only about 20 more to cover so far. Yeah. We could do this for months and months and months, and that's actually kind of our hope. So we appreciate you being on with us. I learned a lot. I'm an 11-year allergy mom, so I hope everybody else probably learned quite a bit. If you guys have questions, leave them here, and we will recap all of this later. I'm going to let you get to your next appointment. We got to check Miles' arm, and we appreciate all you guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.